Hi everybody, I'm Gerard Labuskaghni and welcome back to Zulu Alpha Firearms channel. If you recall, a couple of months ago during 2020, I did a review on the CZ P10C. I just got it before lockdown and we did the review just as the lockdown lifted and we could go to a firearms range to test it out. So those few mags you saw me shooting out were the very first few are done with it. Obviously, it's a couple months later, it's now the beginning of 2021, and I've had the opportunity to shoot the firearm quite a few times on quite a number of sort of 6-stage and 5-stage pistol shoots, and also quite a few 3-gun shoots. So I've probably done about 800 rounds since the reviews with the gun, and I wanted to give you a bit of an update. One of the things, if you recall, that I was a bit worried about was the very aggressive stippling that's actually on the firearm. So the front and the back really kind of felt very rough.
The grip stippling is ridiculously aggressive, almost to the point where I don't know how it's going to be if I'm going to shoot like 10 or 6 stages. I'll have to see. Already you can see my hand, the little dots. I don't know how well you can see it there. The front and the back stippling is really, I think, where you're going to feel it. So
now, having shot quite a number of 5-stage, 6-stage shoots, I can tell you it's really a non-issue. It hasn't bothered me. I haven't walked away with blisters on my hands or sort of sandpapered hands. So really, that shouldn't be an issue for any of you that want to shoot the firearm for, for sporting purposes. So that's one myth busted. What I did notice, however, which I hadn't picked up on any of the reviews either, is that because I use reloads, if your load is too light, it's going to have trouble cycling. So remember that AimPoint Accro with the battery weighs about 60 grams. That's not taking into account the weight of the adapter plate that goes in between the firearm and the actual optic sight that you're putting on, whether it's an AimPoint or a Trijicon. So that little adapter plate is going to add on additional weight. So you're talking 60 plus grams. Now, if you're using, for example, like me, I have some of my 9mm rounds are loaded with SOMChem 121 using a 3.8 grains. Now, those rounds often didn't want to cycle properly. There was a failure to feed properly using those particular rounds quite a lot when I was doing the initial shoots. However, when I use the 4.2 grains of SOMChem 121, no problem whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. The Trijicon RMR actually weighs, without the adapter plate, about 34 grams with the battery. So again, adding this, for example, this is a Picatinny rail, brought this up to 60 grams. But again, you wouldn't be using a Picatinny rail on top of a pistol. So just keep that in mind. So if you're going to go out there and buy ammunition, perhaps instead of buying a couple thousand to take home, buy a box, test it out with your AimPoint Accro and see if the gun cycles okay. So again, not the gun's fault, not really the sight's fault. Just make sure you have properly loaded ammunition that's going to accommodate that extra weight on top of the slide. I still haven't adjusted the Accro. If you recall in the review, what I'd done is during lockdown is really just used my iron sights and co-witnessed the red dot at about 10 meters in my house at the time. It's actually kind of held up pretty well in the club shoots that I've been doing, which are obviously greater distances because they're outdoor ranges. So I haven't had to readjust the sights since then. The aim point did come loose a little bit. So I was obviously cocking my P10C on the aim point itself, and of course the slide moving back and forward. And I hadn't used anything like Loctite to mount the base plate to the slide. So again, that did come loose after a while. I just took off the aim point, retightened those screws, and off you go. So again, not the aim point's fault, not the gun's fault. It's actually Gerard Labuskaghni's fault. I actually still haven't used any Loctite, but that's something that I would definitely recommend to make sure those screws don't come loose. Getting used to the red dot. It's my first red dot on a pistol, or first optic on a pistol. It's really something that you need to get used to. If you think that putting a red dot onto your pistol is going to suddenly make you a brilliant shooter, you're absolutely deluded. It takes a lot of rounds to get used to it. So that slight tremor that you don't notice with iron sights is very pronounced when you've got a red dot, and that little red dot bounces around like a firefly. So that is something that takes quite a bit of time to get used to. So don't, specifically if you're going to use it for self-defense, you really want to go practice with it. Moving between different targets, holstering, taking out and firing some shots. Very important in that regard, but still a lot of fun to shoot in the pistol, the optics, production optics category. It's quite a lot of fun. I'm still using the same quantum carry appendix holster when I carry it out and about. No problems. I mean, I don't think that appendix carry is particularly comfortable no matter what holster you use, but I haven't had any reason to replace this quantum carry, which again, as I said, is a local product. I did, of course, have to buy a new holster for the sport shooting because you can't use an in the waistband when you're doing sports shooting. So I just went to my local gun store, and again, because I do sports shooting for fun, I'm not interested in all the fancy holsters that you pay thousands for. And I really just bought another local brand, Daniel's Holsters. And again, because the AimPoint Accro is a funny shape that holsters aren't used to accommodating, at the shop I bought it from, they did just trim it so that the AimPoint Accro fits, and it's been fine. As I said, I mean, if the 3-gun shooting, you do a lot of running with your pistol holstered, and it stayed in place. So for my purposes, totally fine. Again, support local brands where you can. I think Daniel's Holsters, according to the websites, is available in 67 different shops in South Africa and all the provinces. I think they've got one shop in Zimbabwe that stocks their products, one in Namibia, and apparently one in Switzerland, of all places. I couldn't tell on Quantum Carry's website where their shops are, but I ordered mine online and got great service from Quantum Carry. So do support local stuff. All the stuff I'm speaking about today, the products, the items that you've seen, were personal items, so there's no incentive for me to punt them in any particular way. I hope you've enjoyed that top up, and we hope to see you quite a lot in 2021 on Zulu Alpha Firearms channel, and hopefully it's going to be, I'll settle for an okay year. It doesn't even have to be a great year. Just give me an okay year, 2021. I'll be happy with that. So be safe, be legal, and be responsible. Thanks a lot.